The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and journalists and writers and editors and filmmakers and musicians if they put something out, videographers and all that. And I mentioned specifically musicians who put something out because we have in our second segment an excellent Bronx artist who is putting out, he has a CD and he's putting out music that includes his daughter, as a matter of fact, about a very important contemporary topic, which I know you'll be interested in. But we're going to start off with a journalist. We met him originally when he was writing at the Mott Haven Herald. And he's now, as I just said to him, moving up the ladder a little bit. He's now an intern at City Limits. And he's written one in particular article that I thought we really ought to go through. So it's my pleasure to welcome Griffin Kelly. Nice to have you with us again, Griffin.
Oh, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
First of all, just where you're at in your internship. We've talked to numerous interns from City Limits, and our buddy Jean Marie Everly is kind of the editor there and always in charge of the internship program. So what have you been doing as an intern at City Limits?
Right now, the two main beats that I'm covering are transportation and arts and culture. So I've done a couple of stories on each, maybe like two or so of transportation and two or so of arts and culture. I've also taken just a few photos. I'd say in terms of the amount of pieces I've written so far, maybe like 6 or something.
Mm-hmm. And you enjoy the work. You love this work. This is what you want to do.
I do. Yeah. I have
asking you.
I have an arts and culture background just in terms of like my reporting, but it's nice to learn about transportation because it forces me to learn certain city policies that I knew nothing about before.
Right. And listen, I believe we talked about this way back when you've been with us before. Journalists nowadays, you got to know podcasting, you got to know how to do video. Certainly, if you work for any newsroom, they're going to may assign you. They will assign you stuff that you were like, yeah, I don't know anything about that. So this is great. So the story that you wrote that I really caught my eye is about the 4 new Metro North stops that we're getting at Hunts Point, Parkchester, Van Ness, Morris Park, and Court City. And your story, the headline was Bronx residents and a developer weigh in on what future Metro North stations might bring. Mm-hmm. And I think this is fascinating. I mean, it's going to cost $1.5 billion. We're probably not going to really see anything till 2025, 4 more years down the road. But Bronxites would like to see good development. If it's going to happen, let's make it worthwhile. What did you discover in your reporting of the Metro North stations that are coming to the Bronx?
Mm-hmm. So I attended meetings for both the Parkchester Van Ness stop and I believe the Morris Park stop. And, a lot of people are excited. I want to say that right away. They're excited because these are places that access to a subway is pretty difficult. You might need to take a bus and walk a couple of minutes or maybe more than a couple of minutes to get to either the 6 train or the 5 train. I think this is kind of part of a big push that both the city and state are doing, where they want to make the Bronx a little less car dependent and maybe catch up to the type of infrastructure that Manhattan and Brooklyn has. So some people are really excited. They're like, oh, I can get to Midtown Manhattan in about 15 minutes as opposed to an hour of what I used to commute. And this is all part of the Penn Station Access project, which is supposed to make it easier for people from the Bronx, Westchester, and Connecticut to get to Midtown Manhattan.
And also, let's interject, lessen the extreme load that's on our highways.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Keep cars out of Manhattan, give people greater options. I mean, there's many win-win-win things here. So what were people saying? And folks who have been involved in the Bronx and know what Bronx people are thinking about can already imagine what some of the concerns are.
Yeah, so these meetings, they were hosted by the Department of City Planning, and it's basically they're seeing it as an opportunity with these Metro North stations coming in. How can we develop the surrounding communities? And while some people are excited about the easy access to the trains and things like that, other people are concerned that this can lead to gentrification because in the DC, I mean, the Department of City Planning, outlines right now, they're very basic, very broad. They're still very much in the planning phase, like the name of the department says. Uh, some of their ideas include, adding mixed income housing, bringing in new types of businesses while still supporting the old ones. And as nice as these things sound, there's still people who are always going to be cautious that, okay, I don't want to get priced out of my neighborhood that I've been living in for
Sure.
decades.
Griffin, as you know, I've been doing media in the Bronx for a lot longer than you.
Mm-hmm.
People in the Bronx have a chip on their shoulder. They've been burned so many times. There have been development projects that have gone out of whack, and all of a sudden prices have gone up. I mean, we've covered them all. The Jerome Avenue rezoning, there's still dissatisfaction. There was displacement there. The Southern Boulevard rezoning was turned away. The council member was concerned again that there wasn't enough documentation. So I want to start with the positive, and then we'll go to the negative. The positive is, for the first time that I can recall, there's really a look at the whole picture, where you mentioned it and you talk about it in the article. I mean, the outreach, the area studies, they're talking about safer streets for pedestrians and cyclists, more parking space, more park space, championing old and new businesses, setting up a job pipeline. I mean, these are all check marks for people in the Bronx. The problem is, when we, I don't want to stay with the problem. Let's stay positive. This is an overall look at what we might get. That is a first, because normally they'll put up a mall and then 2 years later they'll say, we never figured out the traffic plan. So I guess from that point of view, the city is trying it the right way.
Yeah, I would say so. I think a big portion of these development plans that could come are, like you said, making safer streets in terms of crosswalks and signage, as well as new bike lanes. This is kind of separate, but it's a little tangent. Also coming to the Bronx soon, I'm working on a story about this, is the first e-scooter pilot program.
Right.
So there's going to be thousands of e-scooters in the East Bronx.
Right. So I could just tell you from experience, oh, good, let's put it in. People will love the e-scooters, but then all of the other ramifications, where they're going to be, where they're going to park, what is acceptable process for them, either to register them or to how they get operated, that'll come later after we have a lot of problems. So then on the negative side is, gentrification is a big thing. You want to bring new money into the Bronx. At the same time, people who have lived here for many years don't want to get displaced.
Yeah, I think one of the most worrying things that I think some people are picking up on at the meetings.
Did you say boring?
No, worrying.
Oh, worrying. Okay. Yes. One of the most boring things. No, this is pretty interesting.
Oh, yes, it is. One of the worrying things is that the developer that showed up at the Parkchester meeting is this guy, Joel Wiener. He's the CEO of this real estate development company called Pinnacle Group. And he kind of doesn't have the best reputation, over the past 20 years. I think in about the early 2000s, he was buying up a lot of these cheap apartment buildings in lower income black and brown communities, and he was renovating them and passing the cost on to the tenants, which is legal, but the tenants are clearly not able to keep up with those prices, so they're either evicted or priced out.
What you're saying feeds right into what I was saying. Bronx people have seen this before. They said, what, the city is working up this big plan. We're all excited about the new amenities that we're going to get. On the other hand, you got this guy here. We didn't trust him before, and he's going to make I mean, we've been down this road 1,000 times.
When you hear a guy like him saying, I'm talking to DCP, it's like, now I don't have a good feeling about this.
That's exactly right. I hate to ask you this. I mean, I don't know if you can even answer it. Do you think the city, from your interaction with DCP and others involved in this, do you think the city has the guts to stand up and say, you know what? And I'm not picking necessarily on
Mhm.
this guy from Pinnacle. We want to do this right. We don't want people to get displaced. We don't want the rents to go skyrocketing. And they manage it in a way that will incorporate these concerns.
I mean, I really hope they do because the discussions around this type of community development started in 2018, and they're still very much in the beginning phases of like, how can we make this community better for the people who live here now? You know, is that easy to trust? Not really. You know, for somebody living in the Bronx, it like you say, people have heard this type of stuff before. Why is now any different?
And you know what really is laid out before us is two very large changes. And one is we'll have a new mayor, and it will be interesting to see how the new mayor handles these kinds of things. Will presumably, if it's Eric Adams, will he stand up for communities and you know, get DCP to handle this right? And then also we'll have a new city council, and will the council members, you know, to the degree they can, draw the line and say, we want this to work out right? These are, you know, very, very big challenges. Now for you, we got about a minute left. For you, do you do a story every week, every 2 weeks, every month, whenever it turns out? And what would you be working on next? Like, what's coming up?
I try
I
to
guess
get
the e-scooter thing you already mentioned.
Yeah, the e-scooter thing, I'm working on that. I try to get about one story out a week, and then maybe I'll go out and take some photos as well. The e-scooter pilot program, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm also looking into how arts programs help with reentry the process for formerly incarcerated people. That's another story I'm working on. Um,
Or
a whole lot.
I got to interject.
Yeah.
You're hitting right to the core of what many people in the Bronx are thinking about. I mean,
Mhm.
to me, this is the kind of out of the box thinking we need to do as we emerge from the pandemic. How are we going to really do things that'll make things better?
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Anyway, so there you go. Griffin Kelly from City Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. He's an intern there. I thank you personally because we need good young journalists, especially people like you in the Bronx that are, you know, really going to investigate fully and give people the Bronx real good information. So I appreciate you. We appreciate City Limits, and I'm sure we'll see you again when you do the e-scooter thing or the arts and you know, with incarcerated people thing. Let's have you back. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for always having me on and encouraging me to do more.
Hey, we need journalism in the Bronx. You know, you have advocate number one, numero uno, right here. Anyway, Griffin Kelly from City Limits. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, you are going to definitely enjoy the next segment that involves music, art, and Black and African culture. Don't go away.